Plans for next year's general elections are underway, and COVID-19 is among the factors catered for in the planning. A substantial chunk of the IEBC budget has been set aside to help keep the pandemic at bay during the elections. And as our very own Mashirima Kapombe reports, COVID-19 is likely to impact campaigns as political and social gatherings remain restricted, with the elections barely a year away.
Prohibition against public gatherings is extended for a further 60 days.
Please avoid those political gatherings.
The ban on political gatherings has become something of a default measure in Kenya's fight to contain the COVID-19 pandemic.
Appealing to our political class to please be sensitive to the situation that is currently in play.
But the ban has seemingly been difficult to enforce, with senior politicians rampantly flouting COVID-19 protocols. From staging public celebrations of national holidays to running normal times campaigns in the by-elections, political leaders have public health experts shivering, and talk of super spreader events became commonplace. And when COVID-related deaths struck a village in Kiambu County, accusing fingers pointed in the direction of Kiambaa constituency, where a grueling by-election saw protocol-defying campaign rallies. Though public health officials have not drawn a direct link between the Kiambu deaths and the Kiambaa elections, IEBC has proceeded to factor in COVID-19 in their plans for next year's elections.
The number of polling stations are going to be 53,000. The law has capped the maximum number of registered voters in a polling station to be 700. 700 per polling station.
In its elections budget, the IEBC hopes to spend 588 million in ensuring the exercise is carried out without putting its staff and voters at risk of being infected with COVID-19. With an expected estimate of 25 million voters, the IEBC has had a dry run in the recent by-elections conducted in a pandemic. A guideline for conducting elections in the COVID-19 context on the IEBC website outlines the do's and don'ts that will make the coming general elections different. Just as it was in the by-elections, taking voters' temperature, washing hands and sanitizing is paramount. However, from voter registration that requires direct data capture, IEBC officers must take extra precaution. The registration officer will not only be required to keep a 1.5-meter distance with the electorate and wear gloves while handling materials like paper, he or she will need to disinfect the registration kits regularly, including sanitizing the fingerprint scanner before and after use. In the run-up to the elections, political parties will be encouraged to conduct their campaigns on social and mainstream media unless, where inevitable, the protocols on crowd management will be enforced. However, going by what the recent by-elections in Kiambaa, Matungu and others have shown, this may prove to be a challenge. Far from the crowds, IEBC intends to ensure presentation of nomination certificates is devoid of the pomp and color that follows the flag bearers of parties. Candidates will be accompanied by only 2 people to the IEBC, a proposer and supporter. There will be no crowds allowed, and the candidates will present their certificates on appointment. But the true test of implementation of the protocols will be on election day. IEBC estimates 700 voters in each of the 53,000 polling stations. The voters will be required to maintain a 1.5-meter distance while queuing, and a queuing clerk, who should be a community health worker, will ensure enforcement. In centers with multiple polling stations, each will have its own queuing clerk. While the protocols encourage fast-tracking of vote counting, a tall order will come up in ensuring agents of parties, observers, IEBC officials, media and security officers maintain social distance while ensuring each carries out their duties. Trends observed during by-elections and national holidays will likely inform the IEBC's COVID-19 control measures. Although data from areas where by-elections were held between December 2020 and January 2021 shows a decrease in coronavirus infections, the numbers rose in bigger state events. A steady rise of 97% of infections was witnessed 2 weeks after the Madaraka Day celebration in Kisumu this year. This necessitated a lockdown of 13 counties neighboring Kisumu. By the end of June, infections had decreased. The Mashujaa celebrations in Kisii in 2020 occasioned a steady increase of infections from the 20th to mid-December. 2 weeks after the event, there was a 43% increase, while a 116% increase had been recorded 2 months later in December. And such are the trends the IEBC intends to mitigate against as it aims for a safe general election, presumably in the middle of a pandemic. Mashirima Kapombe, Citizen TV.